Okay, I remember all of them, all the Bob Reed students, mostly because it was a creative writing class in Pascal. I'm sure Taylor Sheridan, when he was there, passed by Bob Reed's class. And a story that I may write, he'll be Rob Wright, the teacher. He was Bob Reed. I think he spelled it R-E-A-E-D. He's working on a Civil War story about 2,000 pages long or so. He'd bring it into class. Redbird, Blackbird, and read it. Before me, the set before me was Aaron Goldblatt, which would be kind of the catharsis, or at least the catharsis part of the short story. Yeah, she's going to be shooting the whole time. To my right would be Rob Vasquez, the playwright, who's a resident playwright. Sitting before him is Travis McKnight, the kind of actor, soccer player, finding an excuse to take his shirt off at any moment. Not in the creative writing class, but he was the good guy. In a way, he looked like a little back, kind of a structured lizard-like face that was good looking. U2 fan. Back in the corner back there was Marcy. She had the Martin guitar, and she had a father that was a doctor. That Martin guitar made it to New York City. She gave it to some people in the theater arts room in John David Templin's theater arts room in Pascal. I took that guitar all the way to New York City and dropped it off at a storage unit because there was a fight between the McKnights and me on who could keep that Martin guitar. I don't even know how much it was worth. It belonged to a doctor. It's in New York at a storage unit. They probably have it by now. Also, my notes to my play, little play I wrote called Chapter 27. Thank you, Jared Leto. Continuing on with the creative writing class of Bob Reed. There was Shay, and that story in the short story, probably call her Ray. Don't know if I'll give her last name on it. Aaron Goldblatt, his name will be changed to Baron Mold Snatch. It could really be a name. Baron Mold Snatch. That's how it would come out. We all know what happened in that classroom with Shay and Aaron. She was reading her poetry out front on the sidewalk, wearing her cheerleader uniform. Aaron laying down, doing his natural. Bobby Skez, who will be known as Toby Skez, the playwright in it. Bobby came up to me and said, she told him no. She told him. Final part of the short story will be him facing the class, sitting before me, turning, telling him that he's resigning from the class and most likely leaving the school. Sad situation for something natural as a teenager to do, especially by listening to a cheerleader give a poem. There was Josh Groom, most likely call him Tosh Broom, who was the Jewish Woody Allen type that wrote very Kurt Vonnegut-esque style stories, probably one of the best writers, at least creative-wise. There was Grant Ellis, who will be probably Brant Bellis, who ended up marrying Jenny Chowning, who will be Jennifer Chow. And Jennifer Chowning was the mascot, at least she wore the Panther outfit. In the story, it'll most likely be a white tiger. That'll be the mascot. Or possibly even a lamb. Most likely a tiger, that makes more sense. The school might be called Lamb School, in a fictional Fort Worth town, or a fictional suburb of Fort Worth, near downtown. John David Templin's theater room would probably most likely be called D or T or something like that. DT. Here she comes. I understand.
And can you sleep in right now? Like, can you sleep in? I need to sleep. If I think about sleeping, The second I think about sleeping, then he's gonna be up tearing up the walls.
My name would be changed to Ash Cole.
Yes.
I'd keep partially my name. Like I said, Bob Reed, he would be Rob Wright. We would be getting a fight. Not a physical fight, but an argument. Why I didn't finish a possible novel I was working on while in school. Got up to 10 pages and I wanted a conclusion. You must have a conclusion, Mr. Cole, he would say. You have to have a conclusion. You can't just cut off like that. But the Russian great writers did it. I don't care. They had to burn some of their papers to stay warm. You have to conclude the story and at least be 5 pages. You know, that kind of argument would be in there. The kids would read their poetry. You know, we might as well just say Dead Poet Society. Very similar. Mexican kid gets shot out in front of the school going to Taco Bell by gang members, so we know it's dangerous. There's some punk rockers in it, probably. Stephanie Black, right? Another Jewish lady. Steffi White would be her name. They call her Steffi. She's the one that makes fun of some of the poets for using the word soul. Do you have to use the word soul in your poem? We could use spirit. There'd be a time where we give an assignment where you have to go out and take photographs of Fort Worth, and then come in and put in a music to the projector, use little projector things. That one will be a tough one. Most likely a short story. Then I'll adapt it into maybe a screenplay. You look for Robert Wright's creative writing class, or Rob Wright's creative writing class, probably what I'd call it, in a school known as LcSbanD. Probably a school inside of a school for artists, people that are talented and gifted. The LcSbanD School of the Arts. They're like reporters, but only poets and short story writers and playwrights, possible screenwriters. Something happens. One of the cheerleaders decides to, well, what happens is they go off in groups to write their, they go off to groups to practice their poetry, read their poetry and their short stories. And then one day they all group up and Baron Mold Snatch lays back, and Ray begins to read one of her stories, and he has an itch and goes to town, thumbs one off, and Toby sees it from a distance from the hallway, and then sees her go like, and it destroys him. Baron Mold Snatch is destroyed. The next day, he has to face the class and sit backwards on his desk, sitting his rear end on the top face of the desk, and then facing everyone. He was the only student that would bring his entire computer to school in a little case. Probably more intelligent than anyone else. He probably had to do it. And then he told everyone he was going to leave. Sad day. Then we moved on, publishing our stories. Something about, it would probably be called Rob Wright's Creative Writing Vignette. Something like that. Could be a play too, maybe. Anyway, I'll talk about it later. All those people really exist. What's interesting about Jenny Chowning, she did marry Grant Ellis. They went to Washington, D.C. and started some kind of art development program to help fund artists. It's a true story. Still working on mine. There'd be a scene where, when Bob Reed broke out Redbird, Blackbird, the Civil War story, it's 2,000 pages long. He's reading excerpts to the class. So it'd be when Rob Wright reads his Civil War story called Graybird, Bluebird. The story would be called Graybird, Bluebird, which is a good title. Graybird, Bluebird. In this short story, I'm doing a switcheroo from reality to fiction.